Good morning, everybody. It's time to talk about what can go wrong. What can go wrong this weekend, right? I mean, it's draft week. We've got one of the most exciting times of the year to be a football fan, an NFL fan. What can go wrong? Well, a lot can go wrong, actually, and every team has the capacity to get it wrong. Now, we won't know if they actually got it right or wrong for at least 2, probably 3 years, right? You need to give this stuff time to play out. However, as somebody who has studied this draft a lot, and as somebody who has conversed with people who have studied the draft even more than I have an idea of who I like and I don't like. And as we go into this draft tomorrow, I have a pretty solid idea of who I'm into and who I'm not into. And there are some guys I'm really not into, especially where you would have to select them. So this video is going to be about the nightmare scenarios for me. And here's the thing. I can't really put together a nightmare mock draft, right? Because once you get down into like the 4th round, who cares? You can't do anything that bad. Once you get to day 3, yeah, they might do some things I'm not a big fan of. They might do some things that, I'll say, oh, I wish we had done that instead of this. But it's not that bad. It's the 3rd day. So making a mock draft of a nightmare scenario would be really hard once you get out of the top 100. Honestly, once you get to the 3rd round, it actually gets kind of difficult to parse out. So what we're going to do in this video instead is I'm going to talk about some things that we could do in the first 3 rounds that I don't like. And I'm going to keep it to things that people actually view as a realistic possibility. So, like, I don't like Kenny Pickett, but I haven't heard a whisper of Kenny Pickett going to the Seahawks. So he's not going to be here in any capacity, right? There are other players that I'm not a big fan of either. I'm not a big fan of the idea of taking Zion Johnson because in my mind, we need to let our current guard situation play out a little bit and address the tackles in the center. But I haven't heard anything about the Seahawks taking a guy like a Zion Johnson yet. I don't think it's a realistic possibility. So I'm going to keep it to things that I think could actually happen based off what we've heard so far. So we're going to start in the 1st round. There's a lot of things we could do that I would be totally fine with. A lot of things. But here are some things that could happen that I personally just want to stay away from. And that doesn't mean I'm completely against these players, period, but I don't want to take them here. So in the 1st round, we have 4 guys that I'm really worried about us targeting, and specifically targeting too early. So quite simply, Trevor Penning. He is probably the scariest guy right now to consider as a Seahawks fan. I don't like this guy. I'm not impressed by him. Seems to be a hothead, seems to be a low football IQ player, seems to be somebody who is a classic Tom Cable offensive lineman. And I don't mean that as a compliment. I know he has talent, I know he has potential, but honestly, he was inconsistent even playing at a smaller college. This guy did well at the combine, but when it came to actually playing the position, there's just a lot missing. And if we take Trevor Penning at number 9, look, I mean, I'm never going to stop being a fan of this team no matter what. I've made that commitment, right? I've decided I'm going to be a fan of this team, but a pick like Trevor Penning at number 9, you're testing me. And you're really testing my motivation to give a crap about this team. Yes, I'm stuck being a fan, but there are definitely things you can do to make me go, why am I putting so much time and energy into this? And taking Trevor Penning at 9 would be one of them. I'll be perfectly honest, though. You take Trevor Penning anywhere in the 1st round, I'm pretty down on it. Once you get into that 2nd round, a guy like Trevor Penning, a guy who's a project, a guy with tools, but he doesn't really have it yet, no. I mean, yes, yeah, I would consider it then. You get down to that 2nd round, okay. But honestly, at this point, given the fact that the Seahawks seem to be very interested in Penning, I'm hoping we trade behind Baltimore, and then Baltimore takes him, and then we get a video of Pete Carroll like throwing his binder across the room in the draft room. That's what I'm rooting for at this point. Next guy in the 1st round nightmare scenario would be Matt Corral. This seems to have died down a little bit. A couple months ago, Seahawks, Matt Corral was very, very closely linked, those two guys, those two entities. A lot of people thought we were getting him. A lot of people thought the Seahawks had a lot of interest in him. It has died down, but I don't think it's completely gone. There still exists a lot of reason to believe that the team may have interest in Matt Corral because theoretically he would be a good fit for Waldron's offense. But as I've said before, I don't think his arm is going to be good enough to succeed at the NFL level. I don't think his arm is good at all, really. I think it's good for short stuff, but the longer stuff, you don't really see too much of it. So if we take Matt Corral anywhere in the first round, I'm really unhappy. Even if we trade up to number 32, I don't want him. And if we take him in the second round, honestly, I'm still a little not pleased about it. So please no Matt. All right, so there are two other guys here, but I need to be clear here. This is contextual, right? Desmond Ridder. If we take Desmond Ridder at number 9, I'm definitely going to be pretty down in stream. I'm not going to enjoy it. I'm not going to be happy about it. And I like Desmond Ridder, but there's no way I like him top 10. I don't like him top 15. I don't like him top 20. If you're going to think about Desmond Ridder, you got to at least get back to number 21 for me to not want to just go into a bottle of whiskey over that. So if the Seahawks do trade to the back end of the first and pick up Desmond Ridder, I'm not going to go crazy about it, but I am going to be okay with it. You know, it's a thing where it's like, well, I think he'll be good. I don't think he'll ever be great. But if we build up this defense and this running game, maybe good is going to be good enough. And I do think he's a good leader. I do think he's got high football IQ, pretty good mechanics. I like him. I just don't like him enough to take him in the top 20. So if we take Ridder in the top 20, yeah, that's not going to fly with me. But I will say this. Past the 20 pick, sure. And the same goes for this next guy, Trent McDuffie. And I'm listing him here because I could kind of see it happening. I haven't really heard a lot around this one. Like, you're hearing rumors about the Seahawks being interested in Penning and Ridder all day, but McDuffie not so much. However, he's local. He's got some Pete Carroll-y traits, although not a lot if we're being honest. You could argue that Kyler actually has more, but McDuffie has the opportunity to be a first-round pick. Of course, I love McDuffie. He's one of the best corners we've ever produced, and that really is saying something here at UW. But I just don't see the top 20 pull. I don't see any reason to take him in that range. I don't think he's good enough. I don't think his upside is high enough to justify it. I see a guy who I think would be really good. But here's the thing. I don't think he's ever going to be great. I don't think he's going to be Jalen Ramsey. I don't think he's going to be Richard Sherman. And if you're not going to be one of those types of players, like best at your position, why am I spending a first round pick on you when I know that Carroll over and over and over again can get good guys with 5th round picks, with 6th round picks? That's kind of the only thing he does well. So if you trade back to 21 and beyond, then I'm looking at McDuffie and going, okay, I think he's decent value here because I do like him. I do think he will probably work out in the NFL. Very low bust potential. I'm just not spending a top 20 pick on him. So those last two guys, I don't want anyone to think I dislike them. I'm just not sure if I'm buying the hype around them being top 20 picks is what I'm trying to get at here. Okay, second round, we've got two guys who would kind of be part of my nightmare scenario. And tale of two prospects. Tariq Woolen I really like, but he's just not productive enough and didn't play good enough competition for me to want to spend a second round pick on him. And honestly, I could kind of see the Seahawks talking themselves into this if they're in love with him the way I suspect they may be based off his measurables. They could look at what Woolen did at the Combine and just go, oh, we got to make sure we get this guy. We got to spend that second round pick on him. So I think it's a possibility knowing what I know. And I say that knowing the Seahawks usually don't spend high picks on cornerbacks, but it wouldn't surprise me if Carroll came into this draft going, we have to make sure we get Tariq Woolen no matter what because his measurables are so good. But there's just way too much potential for him to not put it together in the NFL the way that the way that he's going to need to, because he played at a very, very small college, and I don't think he was dominant there. He was a relative no-name until the combine put him on everyone's radar. So, Tariq Woolen, I like him a lot in the third, but you get up to the second, that kind of pick would tell me that we're not paying attention to big boards. We're just taking players that we like. And taking players that we like is how we ended up with LJ Collier. It's how we ended up reaching for guys like, I'll even throw Jordan Brooks in there, who, don't get me wrong, Jordan Brooks is a good player, but is he really the best way you could have spent a first-round pick? Especially in our circumstance? I don't think so. The next guy I just plain don't like at all, Isaiah Spiller. Some places have him ranked in the second round. I think it's more likely he goes in like the early third, but I don't like that either. Very slow, runs with some power, but not enough to really intrigue me. I just don't see a whole lot to be excited about with Isaiah Spiller. And I know the Seahawks are probably in the market for a running back this draft. And there are a lot of guys I like, but Isaiah Spiller is one of the guys who I've really been put off of, because I don't know what he gives you other than good vision. He seems like he's got good vision, but I wasn't impressed with much of anything else. So if we end up with Spiller in the second round, I'm really, really against that. And honestly, third round, even maybe the fourth round, I'm not into it. I wouldn't be completely enraged about it, but I wouldn't like it. And Woolen, look, honestly, if we got Woolen in the second round, I would hate it, but I would also be like, I think he's got a real chance to be good. Maybe he'll live up to that second round pick. Spiller, I genuinely don't see it. All right, so that's the second round. Those are two guys that I'm really looking to avoid that high. Later on, we can talk. Third and final round, this is really all I've got, because, again, you get down to the fourth round, nothing hurts that bad, right? I guess you could take, like, a kicker, but honestly, the right kicker, fourth round, sure, they add value. There are two guys that I'm worried we might overvalue. First is Cole Strange. There's a lot of reason to believe the Seahawks are super into Cole Strange. We've heard a lot of stories about how they went to his pro day, they went to watch him work out, they love Cole Strange. I don't dislike Cole Strange at all, but there are some real problems here. He's old. I think he's already or about to be 25. He's very, very weak physically. Like, he's going to be great moving in space, which is cool. That's what we need. But he ends up on the ground a lot. And you put those two things together, and I see a guy who should be in the fourth round at best, fourth or fifth round. But I know that some people may value him as a third rounder, including the Seahawks. So if we come away with Cole Strange in the third round, that's going to tell me the same thing that it told me about the hypothetical Woolen pick, which is we're not thinking about value. We're not thinking about getting the most bang for our buck. We're just trying to get the guys we like, even if it's a ridiculous reach. We don't care if we could have traded back and gotten this guy. We don't care if he would have been there in 50 picks. We don't care if he would have been there later. We just want him. We just want to make sure we get him because we like him. That's how you end up in trouble. Cole Strange to me is the definition of a guy that we would take too high because we like him, not because the value makes sense there. And same token for Zion McCollum. McCollum had an awesome combine, just like Woolen did. I'm not questioning the fact that he should be a valued player in this draft, but if you take him in the third round, that just seems completely overreacting to a really good combine to me. And again, after that combine, he had my attention. There's no doubt about it. But McCollum, given how low his experience level is, given how low his level of competition was, I don't see a day two pick. I just don't. Admittedly, if we get him in the third round, especially later in the third round, I would probably be able to kind of talk myself into it, but it would just tell me that the way we're doing things is still like we think we're smarter than everyone else, and we're not anymore. In fact, you can make a good argument that we're dumber than everyone else because we have not been hitting this draft thing since 2012, really. So whenever I see this team start to do things where it seems like they're trying to outsmart everyone else, I kind of go, oh boy, here we go again, because lately it hasn't worked. It worked once upon a time, but lately it's been hard. So those are the 8 players that would be part of nightmare scenarios for me. That's about really all I can do for this one. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you guys have other players that you think would be nightmare scenarios. And I will see you guys later. Go Hawks. Another video later today.